with a material scientist. This is definitely a challenge that I tackled here at MIT. And I will talk about antiquity-inspired innovation. And before I start, I will ask you to download this app if you manage. By the way, we do have also something printed out that you might use to download, because there was this augmented reality in the title of my session. And so I was kind of challenged to push that aspect of my work. In any case, while you are downloading this, I hope it's enough for everyone. If not, you can use probably screens. Are the screens projecting this over there? Yeah? OK, good. So let me start with talking about antiquity-inspired, the concept, or also paleo-inspired if you study fossils as well. Now, we do realize that there are materials in our past that carry some interesting properties. And these properties somehow and often are so appealing to us, and we would like to reproduce those in our labs, and often we fail. And this is exactly where my lab is focusing, is exploring ancient samples, fruit of generations and centuries of optimization and kind of trial and error optimization process to then use modern tools, and this is where MIT Nano is extremely excited for us, to somehow unlock these secrets, unlock features and properties that perhaps are of interest to inspire and so future, but also basically translate some of these features into our modern world. And the great example in this domain is Roman concrete. We do realize that these two buildings were quite similar aesthetically. We know about Pantheon that was built 2,000 years ago and is made out of concrete entirely, and is there after 2,000 years of weathering. Okay? So we don't know how long will last our dome here at MIT, but considering best estimations, we might talk about guaranteeing 150 to 100 years of performance, and then perhaps it's going to degrade. We are talking about ordinary Portland cement. So the question is how, oops, I'm sorry about that. OK, here. So how this building was able to resist to all the earthquakes in Rome and everything that happened in 2,000 years. The secrets looks like are at the different scales, and we are basically asked to explore most of the scales, including nano and macro and molecular level interactions of phases in a very complex mix. I mean, we are talking about a cement. And it's extremely challenging with everything that we have available right now to understand phase transformations. They're just hydration processes. So that's a great example. But interestingly, there are many other examples around the world that might serve as a source of inspiration. We are talking about Egyptian blue. Mayans developed really an amazing blue pigment that holds its durability into this interaction between indigo from our genes and the polygorskite is the clay that serves as channels and grooves on the surface to then protect the indigo from degradation. I don't know if you read recently, we published a paper on ancient production of a temple scroll, one of the most beautiful scrolls that were found in the Dead Sea area, so Dead Sea scrolls. That's a quite interesting sample. Of course, our future is not in scroll making, but definitely it might serve as an inspiration in terms of preservation of what we have there. And these 2,000 years old manuscript made out of collagen actually are very vulnerable and could degrade in very near future. So we do use that knowledge to preserve those manuscripts. As I said, I'll focus on Egyptian blue. Egyptian blue is such a beautiful blue pigment. By the way, Egyptians came up with this pigment 5,000 years ago. It's one of the first synthetic pigments we ever made, at least to our knowledge. And they said we had enough of this lapis lazuli. I don't know if you are familiar with lapis lazuli, but it was really precious pigment because there was one kind of quarry somewhere in Afghanistan that was carried to the ancient wall. And so they said, okay, we need to come up with something that we don't pay all that money to paint our beautiful objects. And so Egyptian blue is the fruit of this need, technological need to have a blue pigment. And they took sand, they took natron that is very frequently found in the area, and some source of copper. Turns out that they could even use brass or other sources of copper to then create this pigment that I will be focusing on today. So, interestingly also, Vitruvius and Romans in generally translated some of the knowledge into their world 2,000 years ago. Documents that testify this are many. One that I want to stress today is this work by Vitruvius. In this case, he's showing his book, 10 books of architecture to Augustus in this case. And Vitruvius did only one thing. He went around and collected all the technologies and wrote how you would make Roman concrete, and he also documented how you would make Egyptian blue in the book number 7, I guess. So that's basically really neat to have because we have a document that is 2,000 years old. It's not documented, it's the reprint of his work that then Leonardo actually studied to make his version of Vitruvian man. Vitruvian man is exactly the man that Leonardo is describing, inspired by this work from Vitruvius. Anyways, so we had the recipe, and this is exactly what then we started to use for Roman concrete or Egyptian blue. It turns out that sometimes these recipes are not so complete in terms of Roman concrete. In case of Roman concrete, probably there were some adjustments that we should make. Anyways, this is not the topic. I like to talk a lot, but I will show you this video that shows a little bit the story of Egyptian blue. And it's kind of a beautiful story. As I said, it's a synthetic pigment, one of the first synthetic pigments, probably the first one. And 5,000 years ago, fake lapis. It's very beautiful, and it's something that attracted, of course, interest in terms of technologies, and was rediscovered, of course, following the Vitruvius work. I'm sorry, this green laser and green thing is not helpful. Yeah, I was about to use the laser, but okay, so here. I'm sorry about that. All right, so this turns out that Egyptian blue has also very interesting properties. It absorbs in visible and emits in infrared. The property that is basically something that we are very much interested in, and you will learn why. So enjoy the video. I don't know if you can read at all on the screens. The text, I can say something. So Sir Davy reproduced the pigment eventually in 19th century, a little bit altering the chemistry, of course, following Vitruvius. He, instead of sand, he put a little bit purer silica as a starting point. Instead of natron, he used sodium carbonate, and copper source in general, he used malachite, the pigment. malachite. And then what you need to do is mix nicely these components and then put it in the oven, cook it for a while. We do it generally overnight. And basically you end up, temperature is around 900 degrees Celsius. And then you end up with this amazing pigment. Unfortunately, there's too much light here. It's really great pigment. Oh, look at this. That's great. So blue pigment, but this pigment now absorbs in visible and emits in infrared. Now, if you take a camera and a filter for infrared, this is what comes out. Only Egyptian blue visualized. And so what we do with students, we go around the museum and picture with this camera with a filter, normal camera, and find Egyptian blue everywhere. But then if you think about the concept of translating this property into something usable, many applications come in. Turns out that cuprorivierite, that is the molecule, is also two-dimensional material if you exfoliate it nicely. So it's nano, two-dimensional material. You see fingerprints, very easy. You just put the filter in the camera and nano and spread the powder of Egyptian blue, and the fingerprints are very well seen. Turns out to be antibacterial as well, application that you can find. And this is now. Is happening. We do believe that the property that turning visible light into infrared might allow us to improve the solar cell technology and use it as a kind of material that increases the efficiency of these applications. But I mentioned that I will talk about AR. And this brings me to this box here. So when we basically connected with the Egyptian Museum in Turin, they said we are interested in something that would allow our visitors to explore deeper and have a better experience of the museum. And what this kind of led to is a collection of a lot of data that are generally multispectral data. Now probably you imagine where I'm going. But multispectral data on the objects. And this is an example of this beautiful box found in the tomb of Ka. And Ka was another architect. This is funny. My talk is full of architects today. But in Egyptian time, 3,000 years ago. And so I will show you another video that visualizes a little bit the moment of discovery. They reconstructed the tomb at the moment where Ernesto Schiaparelli, Italian Egyptologist, discovered this tomb. Of course, many objects were found. Basically, what the architect and his wife took with in the other world. And many objects, as I said, so its burial assemblage are right now preserved in the Egyptian Museum in Turin because of Schiaparelli's work. And this is how the tomb looked like. And it's all three-dimensionally reconstructed, which is quite nice. So you see how these objects were carried from the tomb and then stored in the Valley of the Queens to protect and then turned in the Egyptian Museum in Turin in Italy. And if you look carefully at this picture here, you will notice what? I need to be careful with it. Look at these nice boxes. And one of those is indeed the one that I presented to you. But what we wanted to have from this work is actually explore beyond the visible. The exhibit was invisible archaeology as a title. And so what you can do, you can actually expand the spectrum of the light and not only consider visible light, but also UV and other lights. And basically, this same box now has different features that, I don't know, if you do X-ray spectroscopy, here you get pigments. If you do visible induced luminescence, you get only Egyptian blue visualized. So now we are going to do that exercise. You have the app running or not? Not yet. OK. So the challenge was to download the app while I was talking. Sorry. It should work on the things. Projected is difficult. But what you can do and take with you the card and explore the beauty of this box through different viewed through different lights. Yeah, that's the AR application that we developed for the museum, Egyptian Museum, together with the MIT Virtual Experience Design Lab, especially with Chari Zaman. And I need to, you see, acknowledge many people. The lab also developed the MIT Nano work that you will be seeing later, or you already, it's later, OK. And yeah, many people to acknowledge, and I would like to thank you for your attention.